Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Brightworks, where today we're taking a look at a match that was recently played on Tropical Assault. And today, spawning as the Blue Cortex Commander, leading our front lines, a commander that goes by the name of X32. X32, definitely one of my favorite architectures, for sure. 64, love ya, but X32, definitely a good old-fashioned classic here. No, the Blue Cortex Commander, hailing at 28 open skill, and going to be showing us what they've got right up here on this front line of this very strange map, which we'll get to in just a second here. Going to be X32. Now, in the water, already getting their feet wet out here, a commander we all know and we all love, a commander whose name I will not translate, but feel free to amidst yourselves in the comment section, a commander that goes by the name of Reetsweet. Reetsweet, going to be playing as a Cortex commander out here on the high seas. I think it makes a lot of sense, where of course those Cortex boats can get a lot of value. Now, Reetsweet spawning very far forward here. Interesting to see. It does mean that as this match goes on, Reetsweet will be able to contest these metal extractors up on the forward spot a little bit easier here. It also means that expanding backwards is going to be very comfortable, right? As long as enemies don't overwhelm the front line, all is going to be good. It also means those boats are going to hit the front line a little bit quicker. I think overall, this is probably the premium spot to spawn right here, the premium spawn location, if you will, on this map. Yeah, both of the blue teams spawning their naval players in the back line, with both of the red team naval players spawning on the front line here. So, keep that in mind as we watch these naval battles unfold here. Oh, X32 also getting into the Navy. Cheeky, cheeky. Now, I love to see it, because actually this makes a lot of sense, and I'll tell you exactly why. Transitions well into my very next point. Tropical Assault, what a bizarre map. It's completely covered in water all over the place. Tropical indeed, maybe an understatement even. Maybe it should be called the Underwater Assault. It's got these little islands all over the place where you can set up metal extractors, you can set up defenses, but most of it is all encompassed by a whole bunch of water here. Navy is going to be the name of the game here, and I think that's exactly why we see the blue commander getting into the water so quickly, is because essentially what X32 is hoping to do here is contest these with frigates. Yeah, using destroyers and frigates, naval units, essentially, to contest the land metal extractors. It's not something we see often, if ever. There's very, very few maps where it's really possible. But it seems like that's the plan right here from the blue team. How much value can we get out of that strategy? I'm sure it'll be a lot. Already we have some resbots headed across the map, but a couple of pawns and a couple of rovers will deny any of that shenanigans going on right here. The red team forced off of the midsection of the map here. Now, we don't have any resbots out here yet. We do have one on this little island over here. Not prioritizing the metal, and that might be a problem here. 612 metal and rocks sitting right here in the middle of the island. Definitely going to be worth it to try and get your hands on. That's easily a couple of units in the early game, or maybe even a extra lab or two if you wanted to really rapidly transition into something like a horizontal tech transition, going for maybe some vehicle play or something like that. Very interesting to see. Okay, so X32 with essentially no presence on the front line right here, going for a torpedo launcher instead. Now, that destroyer essentially costs the entire economy of X32, so it's going to be a while before the blue commander has any metal to spare here, but at the very least, the destroyer is out, and as long as that destroyer is up and running, X32 is going to be in a wonderful spot here, as long as, Reetsweet isn't able to blast it down, and of course, with a little bit of help from some commander repair, that destroyer is going to be more than capable of blasting away at a bunch of these enemies over here. So let's go ahead and check in on the view right here, the perspective of the blue commander, and you can see, actually sees the little dot from the frigate strolling its way forward as Reetsweet marches forward to claim these mexes here as well. Effectively a 2 versus 1 over here on the left-hand side versus a, 1v1 over here on the right-hand side. Loads of gunboats out, in fact 700 metal worth of gunboats. Definitely counterable right now by Timinator. We can always go for a bunch of those frigates, and those have tremendous effect on a lot of these. There we go. And Destroyer finding some value here. Mostly finding value in the form of destroying that commander. Yes, the commander unable to repair here without revealing itself means that either the frigate or the commander goes down, and obviously Reetsweet's going to be more than happy to give up the frigate, much less happy to give up the commander here. So indeed, commander will be forced to back off. Destroyer looking a little bit thin in the paint there. Yeah, 28% HP remains on that blue frigate. Commander for the red going to be in a little bit of trouble. 40% HP. Oh no. Not looking good right now for Reetsweet, who effectively has no way to counter this. Can't really do anything about it. You could cloak the commander. That's the only thing that might reasonably help. But boom goes the red commander. What a beautiful snipe right there. An excellent way to open up the early game. Definitely going to be key as we move forward into this match here. Now, hopefully we see Dirkclown, the purple commander, stepping forward here as well as Crank J057. the pink commander, who has no resistance right now, effectively nothing stopping the pink commander from marching forward with those maces, could counteract all this damage over here by just going forward, killing the blue economy, and equalizing things. Bringing things back into balance right here for the red team. Res sub to pick up the lost frigate on the bottom of the ocean here. We have the destroyer in position, or moving into position rather, to try and defend this base, as we have the maces moving forward right here. Toast says the purple commander, Dirk Lown. Loads of pawns getting aggressive, but not getting a very effective surround on that commander. Yeah, D-gun down like cannon fodder. And away goes any chance of that ever connecting in a bigger way. Crank in a little bit of trouble, though. Yep. 30% and dropping rapidly. Those frigates don't mess around. Oh, gunships in the air. Interesting. Very interesting. 8% HP remaining on that commander. Surprised we didn't go in for the kill here. Frigate's doing a wonderful job against the gunships. My goodness. Almost killing one of those gunships. Reed Sweet is now back and online, though. The red commander going to be defending this corpse pile that was never actually reclaimed here. These res subs need to eat that metal immediately. Wow. Massive tactical blunder right there from the blue team not to eat up all that juicy metal that was lying on the bottom of the ocean floor. No reason we shouldn't be reclaiming as much of this as possible. There we go. Destroyer does shut down the res sub, so at the very least that's nice. Removes a little bit of that power from the early game Navy right here for Reed Sweet. This should be eaten up immediately, though. Every commander here trying to get their hands on some of this. One of these res subs actually shared over to ninjas. Is nice. Going to be going ahead and helping out the Cyan commander by making sure the units are in position. Dirk Clown essentially just in charge of making sure that the blue base doesn't get overrun over here. What a cheeky little strategy. I'm curious to see how well the purple commander is going to be able to hold. Obviously has a couple of extra mexes to afford all that as well. With the Centurion blasting away here, it's going to be a expensive defense. That's all I'll say. LLT trying its very best as well. The thing about Centurion is they're extremely efficient if you can keep them well microed. But in a situation where you only have one or two of them and there's really no other options, they're just not going to be the best. And especially against maces, which do a huge splurge of damage all at once, definitely going to be difficult to make those Centurion work out well for you. Res subs to pick all this up wouldn't be the end of the world here. By the way, Orange Commander diving on top of a bunch of torpedo launchers does get blown to smithereens right there on the beach of Southpaw. Going to be devastated by the power of that jellyfish coastal torpedo launcher. Now, coastal torpedo launchers, one of, if not the best land defense, or well, shallow water defenses there is. Always been strange to figure out what to call those. They effectively destroy any sort of T1 bots or vehicles. They're, however, not particularly good against boats, right? They're okay against boats, but they're not ideal against them. Agitator putting in some work here as well, able to fire over the vehicles right there and eventually going to be able to shoot a lot of this down. Not the end of the world. Shutting down the res bots is quite nice over there as well. Yeah, Reed Sweet's still building up a Navy though. And you know what? It only takes one good engagement for a Navy to lose or win their entire fight. Res subs. Resurrecting things and then pulling them back only to be destroyed once more by torpedo launchers. There go the destroyers, though, to start firing away at those torpedo launchers, trying to clear out that static defense in the midsection there. Every time those destroyers go away, though, yep, Reed Sweet puts on the pressure. Nicely done by the red commander. Applying the pressure so that those blue forces have to be pulled over to the left-hand side here, and then continually making sure that there's not actually an engagement right there for the red commander to lose. Crank also going into boats at this point. Right-hand side, a massive mess of a naval engagement. There is a destroyer out on both sides. 2 skaters only to escort this destroyer, though. Timidator going into that build that we saw recently, where it's just mass destroyer, mass skater. One destroyer to 1 skater. It's a 1-to-1 piece. It's an interesting build order. It certainly lends you a lot of interesting options. For one, it obviously gives you the range of the destroyers, which allows you to shell away at a lot of these units. As long as you don't take a poor engagement, the destroyers can trade against frigates so efficiently that it's almost always worth it. With the assistance of the skaters, you have the vision to pull it off here as well. Gunships lying and lurking in wait here, trying to find an opportunity to push forward. The brown commander with a massive Grombird, what a wonderful name. Gonna be pushing forward with a mixed composition of Maces and Centurion. So surprised we don't see any of these coastal torpedo launchers set up here for the purple commander. Easily one of the most efficient defenses that you're going to have for a map like this. Any situation where you can use those coastal defensive launchers, almost always worth it. It's a lot of Centurion marching forward. That is a grand old 1,800 metal, nearly 1,900 metal worth of Centurion. You can see just how quickly they can evaporate things. Once they build up to big enough numbers where they can sort of get that surround bonus as well, they can be very, very difficult to shut down. Clown, the purple commander, in a lot of trouble. Oh no, not paying attention for just a second, and the purple commander goes down. Beautiful push right there from all the forces. Shuriken, oh no. Shuriken pulled just a minute too late right there. Don't manage to actually paralyze all these units before the purple commander goes down. Now we lose them all to a bunch of fighters, triggering an all-in-air assault wave right here. The Seafoam Green Commander following suit and diving down into the depths of the sea here as well, leaving behind a smoking hot 1,250 metal corpse that any commander right now should be vying for control of. The Navy is looking hot over here for Reed Sweep, losing basically nothing this entire time, using the res subs to resurrect and repair all these units, making sure that the scaling is continuing upward. It takes a couple good engagements, and those destroyers are getting real low. Whoa, we're getting dangerously close to the snowballing scale here. Yeah, very, very close to having enough boats that we can actually start to blast down destroyers in a single hit. There we go. Shuriken now on top of the Centurion wall. There's units here to take advantage of it. LLT to defend, not the end of the world. Allowing these pawns an opportunity to actually find some value against these very sturdy T1 bots. Melting them down fairly quickly, not the end of the world, but certainly with a relative swiftness, I would say. 1% HP remaining on that hero right there, 77% paralyzed, 1% HP, and 100% reason to remember the name, I guess. A little bit of reference right there for anybody who might care. Not Haymaker, the Lavender Commander, still holding on the right-hand side, though, going up against Timinator, who, despite having pushed this far forward, doesn't really have much of a reason to be out here. We do have submarines now, so we could snipe these metal extractors. That'd be quite nice. Popping those metal extractors and denying every ounce of metal that you can to a Navy commander is always going to be worth it. Destroyers were pulled back here to be repaired in the shipyards over here. Very cute indeed. Yeah, those destroyers getting a little bit of a massage, making sure that they're all grouped up and healthy. Very, very nicely done. Finally, they will all be sent out to the fronts once they're all nicely healed up. And once they're back on the front line, I think we'll re-engage. It's was it 4 destroyers or 5 destroyers? 4 destroyers up against 2. Could certainly be 1 or 2 good engagements away from winning that fight. Dietler, the Maroon Commander right here, losing health rapidly. Yeah, the Agitator's firing away right now. There's a big ball of hounds right now that you do not want to lose to that Commander explosion. Oh, no. Luckily, the Maroon Commander does notice in time before it actually goes down, but my goodness, that was very close. Losing those hounds right there would have been terrible. Brown Commander goes down right here as well. A little bit of an overextension means that it will go down right on the favor of the Purple Commander. And my goodness, what a back and forth trade we've seen here. Both teams losing commanders left, right, and center. The blue team with 6 commanders up here, and the red team with just 4. About neck and neck as far as the metal income goes here as well. However, the blue team leading with the 22% advantage in the energy department means that they've been a little bit more efficient about that energy scaling. They've been a little bit more on top of it about making sure that that late game economy comes up to speed here. We do have an advanced fusion reactor already up for gigatype. I guess it is 13 minutes into the game here. Non-stop action. It's always hard to tell exactly where your line is. Sometimes you check back in and your tech is barely on T2 and you're 13 minutes into the game, and other times you check back in and they've got marauders already on the other side of the map. Sometimes that can make or break a commander on the fronts. Certainly can mean a lot. Destroyers now engaging against these land units. This is what we were hoping for the entire time here. Using the naval units to actually fight the land units. You can see just how efficient they are. Able to blast away at even the static defense, even the longest ranged laser tower available. Able to outrange even that and blast it to smithereens here. Destroyers effectively the vehicles of vehicles. Does that make any sense? They're vehicles squared. Double the vehicles could never be. Very expensive, very tanky, very high damage, very, very good. Eels here in a little trouble. Yeah, actually get blasted apart quite brutally. Couple of them still survive right now, but not an ideal situation. Reed Sweet forced back to the base. And Blue Commander smells blood in the water right now. Banshees, again, continuing to harass over here. No air in the mix right here. No herring. Herring anti-air boats. A little bit of a problem. Meanwhile, cheeky little play from the red commander Zombie, who's already got T2 up and running and is going to go ahead and send a couple of ducks across the map. Not Haymaker in a lot of trouble now, as the Lavender commander is left completely isolated from its batch of units, moving away so it doesn't die in the nuclear explosion. Takes down a submarine with it, the pressure wave collapsing it instantaneously, and those ducks are waddling their way up onto the shoreline and into the enemy base. Torpedo bomber now trying to connect with some of these naval units over here, having a hard time. Oh, the anti-air is good enough though. It will shoot down that single torpedo bomber. Means that no such connection will oblige. And just like that, the hot pink commander Terminator has won the right-hand side thoroughly. All we need to do now is push forward. All we need to do now is push forward into the enemy base, and we should be in a fabulous way. You can see those ducks with their little plasma beam. They leave a little for want with that plasma beam. Definitely putting most of the forward firepower into the torpedo launcher. Very, very little into the actual plasma weapon right here. T2 Con will be blasted apart though, and that's quite annoying, of course, because losing that constructor means no more T2 mixes for you. Meanwhile, on the fronts here, those destroyers have gone on an absolute tear. The engagement we were hoping for. Yeah, that's a lot of dead destroyers on the blue side, and with those torpedo bombers as well, definitely making things so uncomfortable here for the blue commander. Torpedo bombers softening all this up and leaving behind a massive reclaim field. If we can clean all this up, if we can get a little bit more build power scaled up here, I think we're going to be in a good way. But right now, Reed Sweet's in a rough position. Yeah, no build power means this lab is going to be churning out units very slowly, and you can see we are slowly starting to float some of that metal. Torpedo bombers trying to find value here, very wary not to lose them. If you lose those torpedo bombers, you've lost basically your biggest tactical advantage in the middle of the map. Definitely want to avoid that if at all possible. Meanwhile, Hound's pushing forward on the right-hand side. All of this has been crumbled completely. Kaina Zirfang, the powder blue commander here with a bunch of T1 units. We do have a sumo on the front here as well, but it'll be blasted down quite effectively by those Hounds as they have plenty of time and plenty of room to kite. No reason why it should stay up and running here. Hounds now finding the commander. Boom goes the commander right next to that sumo as well, softening that up quite a bit. Arbiter missile does connect in a big way over there. Looks like the, hot pink commander will go down over here as a sacrifice actually to get some T2 lab action going up and running. Cute little air ping going on over here. Yeah, the blue commander's right to engage. We need to continuously be trading out against the boats over here. So hard to justify it though, and every time you dive in, you're gonna be losing ships to those torpedo bombers. With very, very low production right now, though, it does mean that Reed Sweet's gonna struggle to put these boats on the field. There we go. A single constructor, really all it takes to get that up and running properly. But at this point, it is multiple destroyers versus just a couple of frigates here, and we've got reinforcements incoming as well. Res subs under the waves, trying to resurrect as much of this as possible, but at this point, I feel like we may as well just go ahead and go for a good old proper reclaim command. There we go. Left-hand side, won by the blue navies. Right-hand side, completely dominated by Timinator and the hot pink navy. Sailing forward, isn't that a good band name? Timinator and the hot pink navy. Yeah, I could see it. I could see it printed in vinyl across the USA. Whole bunch of destroyers pushing forward right now. Nothing they can't shoot at. They can launch their depth charges and they can fire their Gauss cannons. Means that the entire economy of the Lavender Commander, or yeah, the not Haymaker's economy, gonna be going down. Gunships in the air, definitely very annoying. But already the Navy battle has been won right here, which is really all we were looking for. T2 Lab starts up for Gigatype, the green commander. I'd love to see metal shared back that way. Loads of res subs eating up metal right now. I'd love to see it all dumped into the green commander. We already have a T2 Lab up and running right now for Ninjas, the cyan green, or yeah, cyan blue commander. Boats finally cleaned up. All said and done, the defense is wonderful. There we go. T2 fighters jumping on top of some of these torpedo bombers now. Gunships also in a vulnerable position here over the water. Submarine battle for you. Oh, the battle of who can micro less. There's really not a great way to micro a submarine battle. Very, very tricky to get that to work out. Fighters locking down the air player right now, catching them at a vulnerable moment here. As you can see, the APHIS is coming up and online with basically no anti-air defense in base. Means that, yeah, the blue player is actually struggling a little bit to clear out the rest of his fighters. Meanwhile, T2 Lab has been blasted down by the remnant destroyers right here of the Cyan Commander Ninjas, and the E-Converters pop as well, taking down a load of metal production. Solar panel's going to pop here as well, leaving the Red Commander with virtually nothing to their name. Reed Sweet does have a T2 Lab up and running in the backline, though. That is an expensive investment. Will it be enough to pay off here? We have a T2 submarine here as well. We could go for some of those T2 metal extractors under the seas. Curious to see what the response is going to be right here, though. Yeah, X-32 eating up all that metal and just going ahead and feeding it back to the team. When in doubt, more Aphis it out. There we go. That's the Green Commander's motto. Gigatype setting up more and more Aphis here, queuing them up one after another, as well as the E-Converters here, making sure that we're constantly expanding build power, as well as E-Converters, making sure to constantly be scaling upwards. That's the name of the game, and it is the way that you win these late games once you've gone the distance here. Only anti-nuke coverage right here for the left-hand side of the island. The right-hand side still exposed. Do we see a nuclear launcher from the red team? It looks like we do not. About 150 ducks headed on over towards the left-hand side. Loads of anti-air towers were set up to thwart a whole bunch of torpedo bombers. We were not prepared, however, for an underwater incursion. And ducks are quite nefarious. Very, very difficult to deal with these in time. We would need quite a few Buccaneers in order to shoot these down, or a couple of submarines here. Well, quite a few submarines, actually. Yeah, there we go. Ducks are finally spotted. Walking in a wave across the high seas here. Going to be blasting down whatever they can see. There's a single torpedo launcher here. Oh, boy. Ducks with their torpedo launchers are so extremely effective underwater. They put even the mightiest of navies to shame. At a relatively low cost of 330 metal, they can get insane value against units that are otherwise vastly more expensive. At the very least, that commander's death will be a sacrifice that takes down quite a lot of those ducks on that side. Razorback's now headed across the map right now from N1X, who's been handily ecoing up here for a nice time. Actually stopped the eco at a nice point here. Double Aphis Razorback is definitely quite viable. I love to see a good build that isn't predicated on continually expanding forever, but does actually have a play in mind, and I think Double Aphis Razorback is certainly one such build. Offers you a good flexibility of response time to startup time, right? You can get them out on the field before your team is actually dead in most cases. And with the advantage the red team has had this entire game, I think it's definitely a perfect build, right? It's just greedy enough, not necessarily too hard to punish, but, or rather doesn't leave you too open to vulnerability. Because, of course, you can always pivot later on into, or earlier on, into Marauder Rush, right? So you can go ahead and shut down that second Aphis and just go into the T3 lab and go for Marauder. Instead, though, going to commit wholeheartedly into the Razorback push, and just like that, collapsing the entire front line of the blue team. Green Commander's base goes up in smoke here as the Aphis pops. Boom goes the base right there. Takes down the Razorback with it, but sending echoes and shockwaves through the economy right now of the blue team. The red team now with a distinct 50-ish, maybe 40-ish metal advantage per second. Coming in at about 700 metal per second, up against 400 per second. And we still have no defense against the Razorbacks. Where are your sharpshooters? Where are your starlights? Where are your pulsars? And where are your bulwarks? Nowhere to be found. Armada Commanders like hounds. Look at those wind turbines chain react. Beautifully done. Wind turbines this close together. I know I harp on it a lot and probably sound like a broken record, but wind turbines that close together will chain react at the slightest breeze. Pun well intended, of course. Destroyers bouncing their own projectiles back at themselves. Having a rough time dealing with these rattlesnakes here in the midsection. Looks like these Buccaneer want to push forward right here. The Cortex Paladin wanted to push forward and kill this shield, but they didn't manage to do it, and down they go. 1,000 metal apiece per Buccaneer. I guess you don't get that much in the reclaim here, but still quite a lot per Buccaneer that you get. A couple of Maelstrom coming out right here. Hey, Reed Sweet says, I'm not dead. You didn't go ahead and finish the job. Didn't commit to the bid, and now means that the Red Commander is back in this with a Navy on the right-hand side, also looking quite nice here as well. Most of those boats produced by the Green Commander, but handed off, I do believe. But this is a stalwart-looking Navy. Loads of Buccaneers marching forward, as well as a bunch of submarines under the waves. Gonna be great for a big spike of damage, and then, of course, those Buccaneers making sure to keep everything nice and clear, should there be some sort of incursion, like, say, in the form of ducks, once more. Lightning turrets, LLTs, Scorpion turrets, Persecutors, you name it, and some more is all out here in the midsection to try and defend. The one thing we don't see is the one thing that might work, and that's a Bulwark Pulsar. Just like that. This little purple section goes down here as well without too much of a fight. Darkline might have been able to get a killer D-gun right there on some of those Razorbacks, but didn't manage to. And now there's Fiends burning their way across the map, ready to get into the enemy's face about it. Massive naval engagement over here on the right-hand side. That Dreadnought battleship is going to be wonderful in this sort of engagement where it can have all the leisure in the world to fire away, head-on or sideways. Torpedo bombers coming in to try and help out here as well. Those Buccaneers, not very good anti-air, so these torpedo bombers are going to have a wonderful time blasting out a bunch of these units. Torpedo bombers also with the specialty of sniping res subs, which can oftentimes, in a long game, over the long run, mean the difference between winning and losing a naval fight. Wow, that Dreadnought's got value, though. Continuously firing away over here. Not credited with very many kills, but certainly responsible for quite a few of them. Fighters finally pulled against these torpedo bombers, but frankly speaking, they've gotten more than their fair share of value. They've done more than enough work here. Shiva now marching forward. With the power of their heavy Gauss cannon, their heavy condensed matter cannon, they are firing away into the crowds of ducks over there on the right-hand side, catching those ducks before they actually have an opportunity to get under boat, under wave of these units over here. Before they have a chance to really take advantage of their torpedo launchers. Definitely a great move. Yeah, Shiva doing a decent job here actually against the Maelstorms, but there's just so many of them. The Maelstorm assault ships, they're essentially the fiend of the high seas. They have obviously much higher health and quite a bit more damage, but for what it's worth, they work functionally the same. Meant as a very quick, very high damage, low durability assault unit. Meant to get into the enemy line, do a bunch of damage, and get out again. Or never get out ever again. The Shiva are noticed. All of them firing their missiles in tandem. Quite satisfying to see, certainly. All of them overkilling the same targets over and over, though, is definitely a bummer. The Ducks stepping forward to try and get engaged with all this as well, forcing those Shiva to shoot at their own toes, doing a whole bunch of splash damage, friendly fire damage. Not the end of the world, but losing all those Ducks, I think, is more important than losing all those Shiva. Shiva are relatively replaceable. Ducks like that can go ahead and just win a complete Navy game all on their own. Meanwhile, the T2 transition did pay off, despite those units just being, I mean, literal footsteps away from killing this base over here on the right-hand side for not Haymaker. In the end, it'll be those T2 units that do end up breaking through the lab over here. A whole bunch of Dreadnoughts, Dreadnought heavy battleships pushing their way forward. Ducks now waddling their way forward on the right-hand side as well. What a back and forth between these two teams, vying for each other's throats, trying to find every possible engagement that they can. Despot battleship out and available now. Not sure why we didn't see a transition to heavier battleships here for the Blue Commander. Even a capital ship. I mean, there was plenty of metal on the ground, right? Yeah, there's definitely more than enough metal to go for a capital ship here. Surprised we didn't see that sort of a transition. Pulsar in the middle of the map, as well as these rattlesnakes, providing so much extra firepower out and about in every direction here. Really, really nicely done. Mass submarine, gonna be pretty good against the battleships, but there are a couple of Paladin that we need to deal with here. The cruiser, the depth charge cruisers. Having a hard time dealing with those cruisers right now. I think if you kill those cruisers, you're going to be golden here. And they are going down slowly but surely. Rest subs under the waves here trying to dismantle the Dreadnought. My goodness. What a messy battle. Yeah. Definitely very, very messy. Paladins go down though, and it does mean the res subs can start to pull these boats apart, but I wouldn't mind seeing those ones specifically resurrected. Glad to see that Gigatype is continuing to produce right here, just dumping all that metal into Navy units. And I'm surprised we don't see a little bit of a handoff here. Yeah, a trade, for instance. Handing some of this economy off to the players over on the right-hand side and handing them some of the T3 units to go ahead and micro right here. Gigatype setting himself up very, very nicely for an APM stall. Doesn't want to hand off the units, and it might be the end of a lot of these units' efficiency, as suddenly trying to be in multiple places at once. We've handed off a bunch of Navy units, and that's great. Continuing that, though, and just handing units out to all of your teammates, always going to be ideal. The Thor experimental Terminator tank firing away its starburst EMP missiles out of its little elf ears on the side of its head. When the ears are cocked upwards, it means that the it means that the missile is charged. One of the funnier mechanics in this game, but certainly works well. No commander to push here, though, and it means that this Terminator tank will smoothly glide directly into the backline right here. Wow, all those resbots going down. Very nicely done. That's the shot. That's the shot right there. Terminator tank firing away its heavy lightning gun while launching an EMP starburst missile, connecting in big ways with all of those units over there, and the blue economy now collapsed. The blue commander taps out of the game at this point, not seeing the point in carrying onwards. Meanwhile, the hot pink commander continuing to push forward. Paladin's doing good work at blasting down those submarines, but obviously it takes a little bit of time, and certainly those submarines have enough durability to actually keep up with the rate at which those units are pushing forward. You can see, again, units handed over by to the Lavender commander over here. Aphis pops by the Terminator tanks, by the way. Ninja's commander was resurrected, but not in position here to de-gun down those tanks. Means that those will run into the backline. And it looks like with one swift push from N1X coming through and into the backline, the blue team will be demoralized, and the red team sweeps the victory. What a back and forth match right there, with both the navies looking like they were dead at one point and then making miraculous comebacks. The red team manages to steal the victory in this game beyond all reason. Beautiful match, and GG to everybody played. Gigatype producing the most resources, taking the most damage, and sleeping the very longest. Managing to earn the Trader Award as well. Very, very nicely done. We'll take a look at these graphs, but in the meantime, I sure hope you enjoyed, and I sure hope you'll consider hitting the like button or subscribing if you're interested in daily Beyond All Reason cast. I do one of these each and every single day, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and join our little community. There's a whole Discord and everything. It's lovely. Hope you have a great rest of your day, though, and I hope you smiled, and I hope to see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.